There are a couple of things. I don't have about much of update on the COVID. It's still in the background. There's no new recs on the vaccines. I did look up the Moderna vaccine for older adults that's supposed to be lower dose. There's some thinking that it's potentially can have a lower side effect profile. Frankly, there is no data to support that. However, those of you who are aggressively following the news may have seen a pretty startling data on dramatic improvement in cancer outcomes in patients who have received mRNA vaccines. So the survival was nearly 3 times longer in the patients with metastatic cancer disease in the small cohort of 100 plus patients in MD Anderson. And, it could make a lot of good sense what happens because the mRNA vaccine, in contrast to the old school vaccines, which were DNA vaccines, what we often describe as egg-derived vaccines, they're basically known not to dramatically upregulate the immune system. They're only known to trigger specific antibody response. In contrast, the mRNA vaccines are well known to trigger kind of a global immune response. And funny enough, there was an original concern that maybe that actually is not good, meaning that maybe that will actually increase risk of some cancers. There hasn't been any data on that. So this study that was just published and now, of course, everywhere in the media is pretty fascinating. And so what I'm going to do is, let me see if I can give you guys the link. So I'm going to put the link in the chat so you can take a look. Now, this is a link just to a common article in media. There are there are many similar ones. You can look it up. But if you go through an actual full text, there is a link to the study that I'm mentioning from MD Anderson. So does that mean that most of the patients with cancer are going to get mRNA vaccines? I presume in an upcoming years, there's going to be lots of interest in this. And I wouldn't be surprised if this will come to be the real part of the new practice. I'm surprised by this result to some extent, but I shouldn't be, because massive upregulation of immune system would make sense that it will improve outcomes of any illness that is as a result of a weakening immune system. So that also shouldn't be surprised then people who have propensity towards autoimmunity should be more careful because of, potentially there's going to be a higher risk of worsening autoimmunity or autoimmune diseases. So that is really my only update, COVID-wise and health-wise. So I rather take 8 minutes for questions and give a lot more time as we talk to Antoinette, because I do think Alexander technique is really critical. And if you don't believe me, I'm happy to send you a link of my own study on Alexander technique that I published relatively recent. So I'm going to put that link into the chat as well. But let's see what questions you all have. No questions? Okay, here's the publication that I promised. So if you want to take a look, go ahead. You get shingles as vaccinated. If you get shingles unvaccinated as your risk. Yes. So there's a really clear study showing that all chronic viruses linked to increased Alzheimer's disease. That does include shingles. That also does include all herpes viruses. Herpes 1, herpes 2, herpes 6, all of them, and also something called CMV virus. So all of those viruses, if they're present in a chronic condition, they are substantially increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. Diagnosing and treating those viruses is a standard part of our practice. In our RECODE program, everybody gets tested and treated for this. Now, the question that has not been answered, how do you treat, right? Do the vaccine decrease risk of dementia? The question is absolutely. There's a more than 3-fold drop in the risk of Alzheimer's disease in patients who have been vaccinated against shingles. And that's partially why I'm often recommending the shingles vaccine, despite the fact that, of course, it's not going to save your life. Shingles rarely kill people, but it can cause some miserable long-term side effects, particularly chronic pain. So I am pro shingles vaccine. However, you look at this in part because of this documented data on dementia. But there are also other methods, right? So if you, for whatever reason, don't want to take the vaccine, there are other more natural methods to treat. L-lysine is a very common treatment both for shingles and herpes. It doesn't work always, but sometimes it helps to maintain and decrease risk of flares. The thinking is very straightforward. The thinking goes like this. When you have a chronic inflammatory response, if that chronic inflammatory response somehow is skipping into the brain, then you don't want that. That's really how this chronic viral infections trigger this. It is different from chronic, say, infections in the dental infections or infections in the mouth, because there we know there's some biotoxins that are formed, and probably the real danger from those infections lies more in having parts of that bacteria, basically toxins, depositing itself into the plaque and basically clogging up the brain directly. So that's also been studied quite extensively. That's why in our RECODE program, every patient's dental health is carefully monitored and addressed. Great question. Thank you. Could I talk on integrative approach to cancer? Sure, but obviously not today. That's a huge topic. If that's of interest, let me put this. So we just recorded a full podcast with our GW Center for Integrative Medicine Director of Naturopathic Care, Dr. Orser, and she's been on this event multiple times, but I'm definitely going to ask you to come back. I want you guys to hear from the #1 expert, not me. That would be better. But this is the video. And just again, please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, because then you won't need to ask these questions. The videos will be for you, and you'll be able to review this in great detail. But thanks for the question. And yes, we will, in fact, while I'm waiting for next question, I'm just going to email Dr. Orser. Or actually, let me email Dr. Sidral Sadot. Maybe that'd even be better. We have 2 naturopaths who see a lot of oncology patients in the practice. All right. Any other questions today? Okay. It's talking license. It's both. So it could be part of the treatment. It definitely is better for prevention, but it even can decrease the severity of symptoms. It's not as effective as the medications, I would say, but it's a lot safer. Problem with all shingle treatments in terms of medications, they do have significant toxicity, even though they're a lot safer than many other medications, and they can be taken long-term as a suppressive therapy rather than for acute issues. I would still generally start with L-lysine, and only if L-lysine fails in combination with general immune support, then I will move up to a medication. If you have had smallpox. I don't think that those related, Linda, at all. I think they're not. I don't think that the smallpox as a child will in any shape or form somehow change that. So, basically, point being is most people carry the virus. It's exceedingly rare for an adult either not to be vaccinated or not to have a natural viral infection as a child. So it's not necessarily linked. Shingles linked almost exclusively to the immune system functional drop. So people who get the shingles later in life, generally it happens when there is a stressor, either mechanical stressor, cellular stressor, or simply just stressor, like a stress. When you're stressed, what happens is the cortisol goes up, immune system gets slightly suppressed for a period of time, and of course you can have flares of all kinds of infections that are kind of sitting there fully under control, and suddenly they manifest. So yeah. The general idea is vaccines supposed to prevent. There's a good data on that. Vaccines do prevent reactivation. They're not panacea, so they're not the newest vaccine, the Shingrix, the current one, is much better than the old one. I think I forgot the name of the old one, Zastrovax, I think. So that one was quite modestly effective. The Shingrix is much more effective. Unfortunately, it is 2 shots, not one. So it is requires a little bit of a process. And also sometimes there's some funny things with insurances. Sometimes they have to be pre-authorized. So there's some, a typical healthcare system related administrative burdens that are part of that. So, but vaccine is decently safe. All right, let's take one last question and then hand it over to the Antoinette. I'm going to be really strict with my time today. Thanks, Janet, for nudging. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions. So, all right. Well, Antoinette, let's spotlight you for everybody, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to have you all on gallery if I can, so that I can see you. And I would really appreciate if you have a question. This works much better with your questions. I'd rather not be doing a lecture, but address what you are interested in. But just a little bit about myself. I was introduced to Alexander technique in the late 70s. I got 3 lessons from a wonderful teacher, Frank Ottowell, when I was living in Berkeley doing a internship in urban planning. And I would float out from his studio 3 Wednesdays in a row and felt great. Now, I didn't do anything further with it. And until I came to Washington, D.C., and I developed a knot in my neck. I'm an amateur ballet person with serious ballet habits that I practiced for many years. And so when I had that knot in my neck, I thought, let me find an Alexander teacher. And I did, a very good one, Michael Gelb, and studied with him. So this story is kind of interesting because most people come to Alexander when they have a problem. Whereas Alexander himself, it's just named for his last name, sees it as a preventive technique. It's a preventive practice for yourself. It's very simple and it's challenging to change how you go about things. So when I went to that first lesson with Michael Gelb, I wanted to make a good impression and did my best ballet posture, which was something like this. I don't know if you can see, but something has changed about me. What do you see? Am I looser? Yes, I've gone up. And for a time when I was training, I'm now letting that go. And probably you can hear my voice has changed a little bit. I'm using much less effort. And my system is calming down a little bit. What I noticed in that first lesson with Michael Gelb, when I was doing this and let that go, somehow he managed to help me undo a little bit of all that excess work that I was doing. I thought, oh, this is not I was in my 20s, so I was really looking for who am I, what do I want to do with my life, and so forth, and tried various things. And this one, I thought, oh, this will give me room for really new ways of thinking and using myself. Not just doing new things, but doing things very differently. And that's been what kept me interested. And eventually I started to train. So I've been teaching since 1988, a little bit, always consistently. My interest is first of myself, the quality of my own life, but I want to bring this work out to the general public. It's often taught to performers, and I worked some time at Peabody Conservatory with musicians and dancers. It was lovely, and I naively thought they're young. How bad can their habits be? Well, so maybe I can explain a little bit what Alexander works using them as an example. First off, injuries. if you are playing the violin like this, and this is, nobody looks like that, but with excess tension, you are not just, how do you call it? You're repeatedly straining things that don't need to be strained. It's not just a repetitive use, it's repetitive misuse. So for one, I can help them, and I did help them with stopping that. Then the next level is bringing that pattern of how they engage when they do things. It's not just with violin. There it comes out mostly, but we tend to have one way of engaging that we bring to everything we do. We didn't used to as 2-year-olds. And somehow we start to do that. Um, the easier, helpful way is still in there. We've just learned to interfere with it. So the task is first to understand how you become aware and of how you start interfering, and that's my job as a teacher. And then to help you stop doing that, which can be a little scary or unfamiliar at first. But what you begin to notice is that you're using less effort. You're able to uh, feel less awkward. I used to be very awkward walking down the hallways, very self-conscious. I'm not that now, though talking in front of people is still not my favorite thing, unless I know what I'm talking about. Um, so less effort, less heaviness, more fluidity. Oh, I need to turn my charger on. I see my laptop is running down. And more confidence, those kinds of things. So for these students, if you're a violinist, there are many other very skilled violinists. What communicates is them being themselves. So showing up as their authentic self and communicating with their public. So 3 things: prevention, bringing that new way of leaving yourself free to move into activities, and then being really at home in yourself in relation to the world and the task that you're doing. So you apply it. How are we doing so far? Okay, I see some nods. What I would really be interested in is what are the kinds of things that you personally in your life would like to have be less associated with strain or pain. Um, my passion currently is, as much as I love performers and dance, is getting this work to everyone, because it's really so supportive of all the other wonderful practices that are around. For instance, physical therapy. If your physical therapist has some awareness of how you use yourself and addresses that, your physical therapy you will benefit from that even more. So oh gosh, if you could unmute yourself. Now I'm going into my habit. Can you see?
It's probably best for people to comment in the chat because we don't
Okay.
it's not easy for us to unmute everybody. We sort of have we careful at unmuting. Unless if somebody really want to speak up, then you have to raise your hand like this. So you go under
Okay.
React and you click raise hand.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it's not happening, but I thought Jeanette had set it up temporarily for people to be able to unmute yourself. So that will work too. I can work with the chat. I'm not
Yeah,
such a
there's a lot of comments in the chat, so
great.
I don't know
Um,
if you want me to help you moderating that.
oh, that'd be great. Oh, holding music. Yes. And also when you're performing in a choral, how do you stand and not be distracting? And how do you stand up for a long time? Yes, that's a very good thing to work with, and we can address that shortly, all of us together. And then practical suggestions for slumped sitting, uneven walking, and scoliosis. Okay, yes. So let's start with the first question. And I actually would like to start for everyone with standing. Let's work. Are you all in a situation that you can stand? And if not, I'm going to stand myself and I move my laptop and charger so you can see me more clearly. So when you're standing, and you don't really have to see me all that well, but I'm going to go take a little distance if you can hear me still. Ooh, that's getting, yeah. So when you're standing, notice that you're on the floor. This is good news. I have on my little bookmark, I have gravity is no excuse. We actually are supported. There's nothing we need to do to stand. Our system is designed to work in gravity. So if you've seen those little UNICEF emblems or those Guatemalan little dolls of globe with little people stuck on, have you ever seen those? I don't have one in front of me, but we are actually being kept from floating away into space. We're tethered to the ground very securely by gravity, nothing that we need to do to help that. So as you're standing on your 2 feet, or perhaps if you're still sitting on your 2 sit bones, do a little swaying forward from the ankles if you're standing, and backwards, so that you can tell what happens in your feet. What do you notice? And I'll just suggest, something. Do you notice that your system starts kicking in as you're kind of inclining forward from your ankles and starts to keep you from falling? A whole set of muscular activity kicks in to keep you from falling on your nose. So you could either fall or you could take a step, right? To keep yourself from falling. And if when we're leaning backwards from our seats, from our heels or our seat, I just started to fall and I got myself back over my feet. Other systems keep us from falling over, muscularly often. So what would make sense to do? Well, how about we stay over our support? And when you're standing on your feet, with your not standing up, holding yourself, but letting every joint that you can think of, that you sense, be soft and movable. And then staying over your feet, so not going to so extreme that you start feeling tension, your musculars kicking in. See how much movement you can have, and you can try this on your seating, on your chair as well. Have a little wiggle around from your ankles over your feet. You'll feel your feet responding. Sometimes more over the ball, over the side, over the heel. What would you say? Is there one particular spot that's perfect, or do you have some range of motion? Who votes for range of motion? Yes. Yes. And that is something that if we've had a fall, or if we have been taught to have good posture, or if we have, get some comments about do this, do that, sit still, we can start losing that natural balancing motion. So Linda, you were asking about, well, you weren't asking about standing particularly, but holding your music. We'll get to that. So when you're standing, and I was working with somebody in the Peabody Choir, amazing voice, and having to stand in rehearsal on a narrow platform, stepped platform, for a long time. So somehow, in order to sing well, you need your freedom to move and freedom to breathe. I'm going to interrupt myself for just a minute. As you're standing on right now, stand in what you consider good posture, or sit in good posture and note what is, yes, what have you been told about good posture? Maybe you've been told a certain shape. So take that shape for a moment and notice how that is interfering or reducing that availability of movement. Things have become a little static. I'm doing it myself and my breathing is barely happening. I'm still talking, but my ribs are barely moving. So now I'm just going to let that go, and I invite you all to let that go as well. Yeah, now we can breathe again. And maybe I'll come back to breathing a little bit later. So Linda, as you're standing there, to the eye, you're standing pretty quiet. You're not wiggling, but inwardly, you know you are free. All the way down to the floor, hopefully. So let's all take a moment. Actually, let's all take a moment to look around the room. I have a lovely window outside, so it's very tempting to look out here. Not to look for anything, but to remember that we're not just in this screen bubble, but that this whole world around us, the physical world, the wall, the pile on my table, you all on the screen, we're all in a real space. And guess what? We have space above us and space all the way down to the floor. Right. So tear yourself away from the screen for just a moment. You probably, as you're looking away, you still know where it is. I know where you are. And I might be looking at you in passing. Right. And then in your peripheral vision, you'll see a lot of stuff. Yes. Now come back toward with your facing more towards the screen, and in passing, softly touch it with your eyes. Don't give it all your attention, just a little bit of attention. Yeah. Yes. Okay. And then keep that soft looking going as you look over at me again, if you wish, but I will not be offended at all if you stay in communication with me as I'm doing, as I'm looking away. Yes, and keep that freedom of engaging, letting the world in going. So we all started, it's a bit of a lecture moment. We all started as we are hunter-gatherers. That's who we are as human beings. And in our culture, we are very much getting the message to pay attention, to act that all of this that's around us and really here is a distraction, and that we should pay more attention and focus. I mean, I know that I was told by my teachers in school that I need to pay attention. Look at me when all of these things. that outwardly make the teacher feel like we're with them, but actually also interfere with our hunter-gatherer ability to pay attention. So concentrating, I will demonstrate what happens when I concentrate. I will model it for you. And if you feel like sitting down again, you may, that's fine. As long as you keep your ability to move, your freedom to move going. So I'm going to make myself a little bigger on the screen and concentrate. So can you see, I'm really paying attention now. And my teacher might be happy. Well, I've had good teachers. I'm not against teachers at all. But this, or this, showing that I'm really thinking about solving my math problem, which I love puzzles, but that has nothing to do with paying attention and nothing to do with improving my thinking. This looks like I'm thinking. Actually, I have a little video that if you wish, I can send you the link to, that is about children, young children from, I think, a year to about 3 years old, solving a problem. And the experiment was to involved having a little toy shopping cart, their mother sitting in front of, calling them towards it, but a little rug attached to the bottom of the little toy shopping cart. And they would stand on the rug, and of course the cart wouldn't move. So they were asked to come to the mother and then start to solve the problem of why is this cart not moving? And it's really sweet. It's a 3-minute video. I'll send it to Jeanette because I don't have it up in front of me. It was for a cognitive study, but I thought it was so interesting for other reasons. I was pointed out to me by a piano student who loved how these children moved beautifully. But what fascinated me was how these children, as they're solving problems, never get thinky. They continue being easy to move. They get frustrated. They don't interfere with themselves. And they don't get stuck into, I can't do this. They deal with life without interfering with themselves by tensing or getting into a mode. Okay. Are you still with me? I know I'm saying a lot of things. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm looking at the chat. There may be some new questions. Okay, yes. When I'm stand up straight, I've tried many different therapies and cannot keep a constant good posture. Right. There is no such thing as good posture that you can create. Good posture is a result. It goes along, and that's what I will send this video. It is a result of allowing your system to function as it was intended, as it is inherently intended. And I've worked with people with very different problems, physical problems, with people with cerebral palsy, one person, and not huge in numbers, but people who actually have physical problems. And at my age, we all have physical quirks and injuries and all of that. With someone who had no, only central sensation, no peripheral sensation at all, could not sense his arms or legs at all. So pretty extreme things. there are other examples. No matter when we are alive, that inherent organization wants to work. And to let that work, it works better if we are not narrowing our attention, not putting pressure on ourselves. And how does that work with the question you just asked, posture? So I'll show you. Give me something hard to think about. Who asked me the question? Carolyn, what? Well, I will think about how on earth I'm going to explain the Alexander technique in 15 minutes and give you an experience that is useful for you. Now, do you see how I've changed? Does it help me? Well, indirectly it does, because you've seen as I let that go, suddenly my breathing is better. My posture might look better. I'm certainly more flexible, but I'm not doing posture. Posture is an awkward word. You know, we have a posture, and that is a static word, where what works is being available to all kinds of things at any time, rather than have to go, okay, now I'm chopping carrots. Oh, now I'm writing. Now I'm thinking. And then coming out of that to switch to hurrying mode. I've got to hurry and get out of the door. Enough examples? So we get in, actually, for a time when I was training, I happened to have the good fortune to be pregnant when I was training, which was really a good timing. So that helped me a lot through pregnancy and then through birth and having a small child. But for a long time, when people complimented my posture, I wondered, are they seeing my ballet posture? Or are they actually seeing my freedom of use and my comfort in being at home in myself and in the world in relation to whatever I'm doing? Now I can be pretty confident. I can tell when I'm on a roll and going into my habit of, I'm so excited, I want to tell you about this. This is not against the law, but it's exhausting for me. And also interferes with my being able to listen, to communicate. And that's so important for us. So working online like this brings together two really important stimuli. The screen, which is a hook for our attention, and the importance for us to come across and be in touch and be in communication with each other. We are a communicative species. We like to be connected. And so communication and being in communication is very important to us. So what does this have to do with holding our music score? So let's pick up something that's nearby. For me, I happen to have my phone here and I see that I only have 17 minutes to go. And pick up something and lift it up. So how are you doing with that, Linda? What do you notice about yourself? Would you, can someone unmute you? See if you can unmute yourself. No? Maybe not. Okay. So, okay. Notice, you won't have to answer this. Standing is good too. So I'd like you to notice, and everybody else who's picking something up, whether it's a exercise weight or a phone, notice how that is working for you. What do you notice about yourself? Now, Linda, if you care to put that into chat, some things that you notice about yourself, that would be helpful. And otherwise, I will add on to that where people will generalize on that. Okay, thank you for doing that. I'm leaning forward. Okay. That takes you off balance a little bit, right? What does that do for your for the work that's involved with your holding that score, which is substantial? And you might be holding it for an hour in a rehearsal, right? So 2 hours, okay. So most people, when we notice ourselves, which is a good thing to do, notice what's kind of strenuous. This is very functional. We need our bodies to talk to us when we're mistreating ourselves a little bit. And sometimes we're mistreating ourselves a lot. Walk around the street and look at people doing this to themselves and walking into whoever they're not seeing. Now, I'm also nearsighted, so I'm holding it very close. But a lot of people walk around, even without phones like this, in their own bubble and missing out on what gets little children to move and learn to do rollover. I remember my son turning himself over and had never turned himself over from his back because he saw and knew on the way down to the quilt on which I put him something that interested him. He couldn't see it anymore, but he knew it was there, and he started to reach over, and then he saw it, and his whole body followed in sequence. So the interest, our senses are receptors. Visual is very important, but if you can see, there are other senses that will help you as well to stay open to the world, interested in the world, receiving the information that we get. So I'm going to ask you to, Linda, to put down your score for a moment, and all of us to put down our score. And let's do it actually without holding anything particular right now, but just let your hands float up in your comfort zone. Yeah, just let them float up. Now, Linda, I see you going inside a little bit. That's often something we do when we try and notice our body. But you know what? We have a body. We're in it. It only talks to us. Well, it will tell us when something's going off. When things are going well, we don't have to worry about our body or pay attention to it particularly. There is a footnote to that. Sometimes we have been uncomfortable doing things and we cope with it, and we ignore that our backs are hurting or our necks are tight, or to the point of having carpal tunnel, or Michael Tilson Thomas, wonderful conductor, stopped conducting. I happened to see this when I was teaching at Peabody, and I'm not a musician. It was a beautiful one of those PBS documentaries about Michael Tilson Thomas. And he's a creative person, but he stopped conducting, which he loved and did beautifully, because of a rotator injury. His creative mind wanted out, and he is an amazing teacher and other things. But wouldn't it be nice to have the choice and not hurt ourselves? So oftentimes, I'm going on a roll a little bit. Let me slow down. So our bodies do not need our supervision. But if we have gone around and ignored their protests, our nervous system getting overexcited because of stage fright, our uh, aches and pains, our stress acting up, then we need to pay attention, but in a useful way. We can say life is stressful at the moment. And 10 years ago it was too. There's always stuff to deal with. Alexander thought of his work as the study of human reaction. And what is key to this work is when we need to help ourselves, to pause a moment. And not just pause and then go right back to what we were doing, but in that pause to let go of our agenda. So right now you can rest your arms. And in that pause, we are going to raise our arms again. But in that pause, I'd suggest again to take a good look around your space. I'm fortunate that I still have colorful leaves on the trees. And some of you have a window. Have a look at what's behind you. The world behind us gets forgotten, but it's really there. So yeah, turn all the way, Linda Evans, so that you can see out those beautiful, and let your body follow. Yes, all the way, so that all of you is moving. And Mike, thank you for having your camera on. Mike Pertz, also really allow yourself to move. Not just turning your head, but then letting everything move. And if things are starting to feel like you're torquing them, let more of you move all the way to the floor. Yes. And then enjoy that. Yes, all of you moving. Now, where you are, just let your hands float up as you notice how freely movable you are, yes. And let your hands float down, and your arms will follow because they're attached. Right. All right. Is that different, Linda, and all of you? Is that different? No, don't check it out. Was that experience different? I see some nods. Thank you, Linda, both Lindas, for nodding. Was it different good? Was it different bad? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay. So that was not very hard. All we did was take a moment to pause, to get back interactive with the world, which you can do if you're blind. I've worked with a blind person who was really insecure about balance. Oh, I've got 7 minutes. And balance, as you've just experimented with in the beginning, is not static. But if you have gradually lost your sight and haven't learned to navigate the world yet, or you've fallen, we start to hold on to thin air. Doesn't really work. Letting the floor support us and letting the world around us invite us gets us back more towards the freedom that is designed in us. It's part of our design. Hunter-gatherers don't switch from large, wide open and ignoring the details. They would not survive very long. Gatherers would not survive very long if they were just picking the berries and ignoring the snake up in the tree or whatever is running down towards them from the savannah. Sorry if I'm mixing metaphors. So there's a lovely seamless reality that we live in, and let's see how big that reality is. I'd like to take your hands again and move them up so that you can still see your hands while you're looking over at me on the screen right now. So we're looking over at the whole screen, including the lovely forest picture, the picture of the kitchen cabinet, and seeing our hands. You can see quite a bit, right? So that vision is really helpful if you're for everything, including throwing balls, which I was very bad at, but now I play catch with people as part of my Alexander. Yes. Now, Carolyn, can you still see your hands or do you know that they're there? Okay. Keep your eyes towards the screen and all of us and put your hands so you can see them. I can see them here. I can see, I'm just string down a little. I can see them there, but here I can't see them. I know I have them. They're attached, but I can't see my fingers anymore. Right. This actually also for ballet people happens to be where that proper ballet people put their hands in classical ballet. Yes, but I'm just doing this to notice that you won't miss a thing. If there's a car coming towards you and you're driving and you have this open vision, you'll be a safer driver. And I actually look when I'm on the Beltway at the drivers next to me. And if they're like this, I make sure that I find a different person on the Beltway. So we need to stop pretty soon. Uh, Three things that you take away from this. Three things that you've noticed. I'd like at least three things that you might help. If you care to put them in the chat, that would be cool. Oh, have I missed some chat things? A little more calming. Oh, some comments. Great. Thank you. Isn't that lovely that you can calm yourself? Oh, and that reminds me of one thing I mentioned and didn't breathing. Breathing is very helpful. And many approaches, and actually many doctors say to take a deep breath. And what do people do? They do. Now, I recommend, and I might be a pain for when I go for my primary care person, they want me to take a deep breath and another deep breath. I exhale, close my lips, and magic happens. The air just comes in, whether I want to or not. So breathing, if you want to help your breathing, and you're in a yoga class or a meditation class, allow the air to come out. Then close your lips. And air comes in. Oh, and hugging a cat is also very helpful. So yeah, I would love to continue with this. And for all any of you, I do sample sessions online and in person. I'm easy to reach. I'm very near Metro. And I would love for you to, I think Janet was going, or maybe already has, put my phone number and my email in the chat. I do these samples because I want to know who I'm working with. And I teach at my home because that's where all the stuff is that we can play with. I work with what people are interested in, bringing this into application. So when it is a pianist, I might start with how to sit and use your fingers, or a keyboarder. If it's I've worked with people cleaning their litter box, pushing the library cart. There's so many things. I work with myself on not interrupting, but I'm allowed to interrupt myself. When I'm cooking, doing routine things, I catch myself and then, oh, wow, there's a world out there. And it makes everything better. Even in these stressful times, at least we can take care of ourselves and use that choice that we have to come from this is a mechanics, to be functioning on all cylinders, not just our thinking or noticing our bodies or our good ideas about what we need to do. There are many good ideas around, but all of our whole self together in activity. right now, as I started to share in early on, I'm working with this a pilot project for adapted tango for Parkinson's, and it brings two of my favorite things together. And so much of that is Alexander compatible. There are a lot of Argentine tango dancers who do tango because who do Alexander teachers who do tango because it's so compatible. I haven't come across a thing that hasn't been benefited from being able to make this choice, which is simple. Let's do it again. Pause. Have a look around, letting the world in. And as you notice that everything that's already easy in yourself. And if there's anything that isn't easy, well, say, okay, let that come and join the party that's of ease and flexibility. We tend to focus on what's not working first, which is a good thing. But then when we notice, oh, something's not working, come back to the whole and of everything that is already working well. You're all here, so something must be working. And then invite the rest that is a little static into that support to come along with that. Does that make sense? So thank you so much for your attention and your help. And I really mean this invitation. I love working with people. I love giving it away too. So, and I want people to have this, especially when you're older. It's so easy to work with yourself so you can continue to be active. But once you start dropping activities because you feel, oh, I'm old, that's, I'm old too. So thank you for all that, for your work, letting me share this time with you.
Thank you, Antoinette, so much. How do people find you? I'm actually trying to find your website.
Oh, I will put it in the chat. It's my website is very rudimentary,
I think
but
I found
it
it.
is what it is. And my phone, I just, let me undo that. No, AK. Kensington Alexander is my website.
Yeah, I posted it. I put it in.
And then there's my phone number. Texting works very well. 240-762-9755. So I hope to see some of you. And thank you, everyone that I didn't see. I hope you had some benefit.
Thank you so much. So next week we're gonna have Dr. Jaffe. Many of you probably know him. I'm sure he's gonna talk about vitamins and maybe some detox and et cetera, et cetera. And the Mind Body will be led by Dr. Novak, who's our own practitioner at the Center for Integrative Medicine. So everybody have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy this magnificent, warm, surprisingly, weather. And make sure you get the best medicine, the nature itself. So
yes,
spend
indeed.
time outside.
Thank you. I'll leave.
And as usual, I'm going to be here. So if you need to